This is Tony Kent, and this is the second episode of Tony Kent Writes and Cross-Examines, which, if you watch the first episode, you'll realise involve no cross-examination whatsoever. Today could be different, because today we are talking to Neil Lancaster, a man who is very used to being cross-examined. As you can see from what's going on at the bottom of the screen, Neil is an author now, but is a 30-year veteran of the Metropolitan Police. And he has therefore had some of the experiences of my day job. So when I'm wearing a wig and standing in court, it's the likes of Neil that I'm talking to. So I'm sure he can handle some harsh questions. I know I don't think there will be any. So Neil, nice to have you here.
Good morning.
Right. There's definitely a delay on this, so I'm going to try and not speak across you. If I do speak across you, tell me to shut up, because if I get overexcited and rush on, then we don't want to ruin things by talking over each other, and it will be me that does that, I'm sure. So Neil, so you are the author so far of Going Dark and Going Rogue, which are the two novels in the Tom Novak series, correct?
Yeah, that's right. The first one was out just over a year ago, which was Going Dark, and the second one, Going Rogue, came out in November last year.
And you're working on a third?
Yeah, one is, funnily enough, called Going Back, which is another edition in the Novaks. That's currently in the final edits. I'm hopeful that will be out to the general public within the next sort of 3 months or so, depending on what happens. I mean, lockdown and everything has slowed everything up a little bit, but hopefully it still should be ready to go fairly soon.
Fantastic. And tell us a bit about Tom Novak. I mean, where is the Neil Lancaster in Tom Novak?
He's much harder than me. He's much harder than me. No, there's not a great deal of him in me. He's entirely a product of my imagination. There's probably more of my son, my son who's a Royal Marine, probably a little bit of him in there, with the sort of the jiu-jitsu and things like that. But Tom was just a product. I plucked him out of the air when I was coming up with a protagonist for these books. Once I decided to have a go at reading, I wanted to give him a good backstory, so I made him a refugee from Bosnia and Sarajevo at the time of the conflict, and where he was refugee, brought over to the UK, and he was raised in the Highlands. And from there, he joins the Royal Marines. Again, seeing the influence of my son there. And from there, he goes into special forces, special reconnaissance, and then he ends up in the Metropolitan Police, where, because of his skill set, he ends up as an undercover officer and finds himself in all sorts of bother.
And I imagine, given your background, which we touched upon and it's repeatedly going up on the bottom of the screen, that's where you can bring your experience to play to make it that bit more authentic, right?
Yeah, I mean, I spent 30 years in the police in one form or another, between military police and Metropolitan Police. And yeah, I mean, I started off as everybody does in uniform, but ended up in the CID, where I was involved in a lot of covert policing, a lot of surveillance, yeah, involved in sort of covert infiltration, undercover work, managing jobs such as that, and you know, all the usual technical surveillance, all against some very, very serious criminals. It was great fun, really enjoyed it. And but then, you know, my time was up and we decided to move completely, and, you know, ended up in the Highlands, so, which is terrific, and now I have the time to write.
So you've now moved up to where Tom Novak grew up, while Tom Novak is down in London living your ex-life. Have I lost you, Neil?
Pretty much. Yeah, you're still there?
Yeah, we're here, we're back.
Yeah, this delay, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, Tom was brought up. We're all right, okay. We wanted to. I wanted to give Tom to ground him, because he was of a background. I wanted to ground him, so I gave him a really great foster family that are the sort of touchstone. They're what sort of grounds him and keeps him, you know, because he has a difficult background. It's left him with some scars. He's got a bit of a problem with empathy. as a result of what he saw in Bosnia. His father was killed by paramilitaries, so I wanted to give him that home base where he, really felt he belonged, and that's what he does.
And you're working on the third. What stage are you at? Sorry, with the third Novak book so far?
Yeah, the third one I have completed. It sees him going back actually it's called Going Back, and it sees him going back to the country of his birth on an operation into Sarajevo. Much like yourself, my books are quite international. None of them stay in the UK. They've all gone all over the place. I mean, the first book he ended up in Belgrade. The second one is a long part of it in the Ukraine, and in the third book he goes back to Sarajevo, which was terrific fun to write.
No, but it was. As you know, I've read the first one. I think it's an absolutely fantastic book. It's very much up my street. I mean, I think we write in a very similar part of the genre. I mean, as we know, crime writing is an incredibly wide genre. It's not. There are bits of crime writing that don't even involve any crime, and I think that we are very much in a certain part of the genre. And I've got a theory about that actually, which is what I'm going to ask you a question. Same question that I asked Paddy McGrain yesterday. Music, books, film, or sport? Which one of those four would be the bigger influence on you?
It's a close thing between books and films, but I'm going to plump for film.
Right.
I know I've heard you talking about this before and how you think, your books are cinematic. They do. You can picture them in your head as as on a big screen in front of you. Well,
I found the same with the Novak books.
Yeah, well, Novak, if I'm honest, if I had to pick out two films or two series of films, it would be The Bourne and Taken. That sort of sense of pace, that sense of immediacy, that sense of it unfolding in front of you. I could see it on a screen, and it has been. People have said, nobody's optioned me yet. It'd be lovely if they did, but maybe that will come in the future. But yes, film. Although really, I look to books, and when I look at how I write and stylistically, I really have to go back to the 70s with the sort of the 1970s thriller authors, Alistair MacLean, Clive Cussler, and my favourite, which is Desmond Bagley. So really, there's a combination of that, but it's films. That in reality, it's films.
Well, I wish that before we did this, I'd written down the two series that I thought that your books remind me of, because it would have been Taken and Bourne. I could have been very clever and held up a card saying Taken and Bourne, but unfortunately I didn't. So, yes, you're working on something new as well, I think. You're working on something that's not Novak.
No, it's not. I just wanted to, I will go back to Novak. I love writing him. He's terrific fun to write. But I wanted to sort of test my writing chops out a little bit here. So I'm writing a book. It's called Blood Feud at the moment, but we all know that can change. Yeah. It starts off, and the feel of it at the start so far has been tarte noir. But it's not going to stay that. It's going to be a thriller, because I am a thriller writer at my heart. I don't see myself writing anything else. But where we are at the moment, I'm about 25% into it. It's a new character called Max Craigie, who is a DS, but he's in Police Scotland. He doesn't have the same background as Tom, although he has an interesting background. And I'm still finding my way through that. I don't sit and plot. I wish I did, because it would be less stressful. But I'm finding my way into this book, but I'm enjoying writing it. And some of the research has been really, really good fun, because I've just written a chapter in the book that is based in 1830. Now, that was a lot of fun to do, all around whiskey smuggling, because it's about a feud that dates back to the 1800s that is revisited in the present day with pretty much the most prolific gangster in Scotland. And I thought that was a really, really interesting concept to explore. So I'm still finding my way through that one, but it's a lot of fun.
So it sounds ambitious. It's a big jump away from going dark and going rogue.
It is.
It sounds. Don't get me wrong. It sounds really interesting.
There's going to be an event. Yeah, there's going to be an event that's going to happen soon but I'm not entirely sure what that is, because again, these books develop rather than they're not plotted. They evolve. So I know what's going to happen next, and that's going to take it in a completely different direction from what most people would consider to be a Scottish crime thriller.
Yeah,
there's no doubt it'll end up going into it. It'll go international. I'm confident of going.
I completely understand that, because I mean, as I was saying yesterday to Paddy, I invented an international agency at the end of my first book to go international, because I just feel and probably because of what we both do for a living, or what you did for a living and what I do for a living, when you are sort of steeped in the reality of the criminal world in the UK, there's only so far your imagination can take you, because you really do know what the limits are, and therefore international gives the likes of us a canvas to not be so steeped in reality, I think.
Yeah, with Novak's, I've given myself an option there, because he has to, back in Basra, when he was working in Basra back in about 2005, 2006, life of a CIA agent who ends up a really powerful CIA agent many years later. And they keep touching bases. They keep using each other's skills slightly off the record. That opens up all sorts of opportunities for me, which, I can keep coming back to take this away from domestic UK-based policing, and it opens it out to anything. So that's really great fun.
It just, as we say, it's a bigger canvas, isn't it? It's just that bit more you can work on. I want to ask you one more of my set questions that you knew about. I've got the first one in that I want to get in for everyone. This one is, apart from an adaptation of Novak, if the stars aligned and there was nothing in the way, what would be your ideal project to be working on?
I'd love to help be involved in another Bourne film. I'd love to be part of the writing team behind a Bourne film. I know Robert Ludlum wrote them, but
well, they bear no relation.
And be part of that and bring something like that to fruition. No, not really, but they are terrific, and I'd love to. Because that is the sort of film that I can remember first watching Bourne, and it smashed me in the face, and I thought, "Whoa, what's happened here?" When they dragged him out of the ocean, he does it, and these cops get him on the bench, and then all of a sudden they're all dead on the floor, and he doesn't know how. And I thought, what is this going on? I'd love to be involved in something like that.
You're a man after my own heart. I would love to be doing something similar. It's just to have. I mean, as we say, Robert Ludlum, he wrote the Bourne books, but they don't really relate to apart from the beginning. They don't really relate to the films, do they? But to have taken that beginning and make the films as well as they did, just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, no, tremendous.
If you don't mind me saying, I can see. Hopefully that you'll get the exposure you need for the right people to read it. But I can see Novak being very much as we said earlier, very much along those lines.
Yeah, honestly, that would be a dream. I can really, really hope that would happen. I just got, all I can do is keep writing the best books I can, and you promote them the best you can, and hope that somewhere along the line someone will say, "Oh, this is worth a look." Fingers crossed. Not happened yet, but we'll see.
So tell us, we've got 1 minute left. Tell us, when is the next Novak going to be on the shelves or on Kindle?
I very much hope at some point this summer. Okay, things have taken a bit of a backward step. Everybody's got other things on their plates now, with having kids at home all the time. Yeah, so everybody's got something else on their plate at the moment. So hopefully this summer. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
But everyone can, at the moment, still order going dark and going rogue, and hopefully going back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, both available via all good bookstops and obviously through Amazon, or both on Audible as well. Please buy them.
And both excellent. Do buy them. It doesn't benefit me. Do buy them. They're great. Okay, Neil, that's fantastic. I think we need to wrap up so that we can go onto Instagram. Great speaking to you, and I'm going to work out now how to end this. Take care.
I'm sure it'll be easy. Take care.